Our headlines this Wednesday afternoon, August 16th in Korea. The United States is hosting a Trilateral summit with Seoul and Tokyo this Friday at Camp David. Leaders are looking forward to opening a new era of cooperation. President Yoon is mourning the death of his father. His 3-day mourning period won't affect his trip to Camp David. North Korea has finally spoken up about what has happened to U.S. soldier Travis King, who crossed the border last month. The regime said the soldier intentionally crossed into the north, seeking refuge. The United States has yet to verify these claims. Good afternoon, I'm Yoon, filling in for Min-sunny. We start with hopes of a new era for trilateral cooperation. South Korea, the U.S., and Japan will meet up on Friday at Camp David. Ahead of that, Washington's top diplomat Antony Blinken said the meetup will be a historic one that forges the three nations' security alliance. Our Kim Jung-sil starts us off.
The U.S. has expressed high hopes for Friday's trilateral summit at Camp David.
President Biden will host Japanese Prime Minister Kishida and South Korean President Yoon at Camp David to mark what we believe is a new era in trilateral cooperation among our countries.
He added that he had spoken with his counterpart, South Korean Foreign Minister Park Jin and Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi, to prepare for the summit. He added that the summit came at a critical moment when the world is being tested by geopolitical competition, the climate crisis, Russian aggression against Ukraine, and the nuclear provocations. He added that the heightened engagement is part of a broader effort to strengthen alliances and partnerships between the three countries.
Strengthening our trilateral cooperation is critical to delivering for our people, for the region, and for the world. It helps us promote peace and stability and furthers our commitment to the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
Earlier, the Washington Post reported that the three leaders are expected to announce plans for expanded military cooperation on ballistic missile defense and technology development, quoting two senior Biden administration officials. There are also reports that the so-called Camp David principles will be announced, strengthening the trilateral ties. Pundits say, though, the summit could anger North Korea and that Beijing is already expressing discomfort over the summit.
China opposes relevant countries forming various cliques and their practices of exacerbating confrontation and jeopardizing other countries' strategic security.
But experts said the U.S. has a strong motivation to use the momentum of improved South Korea-Japan relations to strengthen trilateral ties. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
President Yoon has indicated that Seoul is open to talking separately with the United States and Japan on extended deterrence. That's according to Bloomberg News on Wednesday, citing a written interview with President Yoon. He said, quote, "The international community will never accept North Korea as a nuclear power under any circumstances," adding that denuclearizing North Korea completely is the international community's goal. In terms of supply chain issues, Yoon says the three will discuss concrete measures, including sharing information on supply chains and establishing an early warning system. And Pyongyang isn't too happy with the scheduled trilateral summit. The North has once again blamed Washington for pushing the Korean Peninsula to the brink of a nuclear war and said military force would be the only way to prevent it. According to Russia's TASS news agency on Tuesday, North Korea's Defense Minister Kang Sun-nam delivered a speech at the 11th Moscow International Security Conference and said that hostile policies towards Pyongyang violate North Korea's independence and security interests. Accusing the U.S. of raising tensions on the Korean Peninsula, the defense minister pointed to the U.S. sending nuclear-powered submarines, strategic bombers, and nuclear aircraft carrier strike groups to South Korea. He also said it's not about whether or not a nuclear war will break out on the peninsula, but a question of how and when. Now on to the latest on U.S. soldier Private Travis King, who crossed into North Korea last month. For the first time, North Korea has made a public comment on why this U.S. soldier crossed the border. Pyongyang claimed that the soldier intentionally crossed to seek refuge because he had been mistreated and racially discriminated by the U.S. Army. Washington, on the other hand, said they can't verify these comments. Lee Kyung-eun reports.
It's nearly a month since U.S. soldier Private Travis King dashed into North Korea. And North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Wednesday that during an investigation into his crossing, the soldier expressed a willingness to seek refuge there or in a third country. The KCNA also said the king had decided to come over to the regime as he harbored ill feeling against inhumane maltreatment and racial discrimination within the U.S. Army. This is the first public confirmation by North Korea on King's status, who on July 18th crossed a military demarcation line from South Korea to North Korea during a civilian tour of the joint security area. Previously, the U.S. had sought information on King, but the North had only responded to the UN Command's request to confirm custody of Travis King. The KCNA report shows North Korean investigators concluded that King crossed intentionally and illegally. U.S. officials also believe King's crossing was willful, as Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had previously stated. Debate is still ongoing on whether he should be classified as prisoner of war, which will grant him certain rights. Meanwhile, regarding the KCNA report, the U.S. Defense Department spokesperson said Washington can't verify those alleged comments. He added that the U.S. remains focused on his safe return and that it is working through all available channels to achieve that outcome. Those efforts come amid escalating tensions between the Seoul-Washington alliance and Pyongyang. Before crossing into the north, Travis King spent 48 days in prison in South Korea and was due to face disciplinary action in the U.S. 이경은 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea and the UAE are currently holding their first ever combined military drills at the Army's Korea Combat Training Center in Gangwon-do Province. The 12-day training program runs until Friday ahead of the joint South Korea-U.S. Ulji Freedom Shield exercise set to take place next week. Some 4,000 personnel have been dispatched along with 200 units of combat equipment, including tanks, armored vehicles, helicopters, and drones. The highly intensive training involves 3 days of round-the-clock attack and defense operations. According to a South Korean participant, the training underlines the importance of building a strong combat capability. Moving on to what's been happening in the United States, at least 100 people have died in the Maui wildfires, and officials worry that the figure could double or even triple in the next 10 days. Park Gun-woo with the details.
At least 101 people have reportedly lost their lives in the devastating wildfires in Maui. However, due to the scale of the operation, responders are struggling to search through the wreckage for human remains. As a result, Hawaiian Governor Josh Green, in a CBS interview that aired Monday, said that the death toll could double or even triple in the next 10 days. He added that 20 cadaver dogs and dozens of searchers are combing devastated blocks of the town of Lahaina on the island's west coast, where an estimated 10 to 20 bodies are being found each day. According to official estimates, 2,700 buildings were damaged or destroyed by the wildfires, with the cost of the damage coming in at an estimated $5.5 billion. To review recovery efforts in Maui, U.S. President Joe Biden said Tuesday that he'll travel to Hawaii as soon as he can.
My wife Jill and I are going to travel to Hawaii as soon as we can. I've been to too many disaster areas, but I want to go, make sure we got everything they need. Want to be sure we don't disrupt the ongoing recovery efforts.
Biden added that he's ordered all available federal assets on the island to assist local crews, including the U.S. Coast Guard, the Navy 3rd Fleet, and the U.S. Army. And for Maui residents, more police presence is what they may need, as Lahaina has seen the crime rate skyrocket after the wildfires. Locals have reported that looters have been pillaging the town at night, with some stealing people's possessions and robbing them at gunpoint. They've pointed to the lack of police and military presence in the area while calling for local leadership. To add to the problems, residents say supply vehicles containing shipments of water, food, and first aid items are being rerouted, as authorities are barring access to the areas where help is most needed. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Coming back to news here in South Korea, President Yoon observes a 3-day mourning period for his late father, with condolence visits coming from across the political spectrum. Our senior presidential correspondent Oh Soo-young tells us more.
State officials and former dignitaries, along with religious leaders, made their way to the funeral hall of President Yoon Suk-yeol's late father, Yoon Gi-jung. The top office on Tuesday said the late Professor Emeritus of Yonsei University had passed away, aged 92, and that President Yoon went to his side after attending the country's National Liberation Day event. The late Yoon Gi-jung taught applied statistics and was a respected figure in academia for his contribution and leadership. His son, the president, has fondly described him in the past as his #1 mentor and a man of principles. While the Yoon family are keeping the funeral a private affair, respectfully declining flowers and condolence visits, except from relatives and close acquaintances, a limited number of state officials and leaders in Korean society, including the religious sector, have paid their respects. This included Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, the leaders of the ruling and opposition parties Kim Ki-yeon and Lee Jae-myung, along with Deputy Prime Minister Lee Joo-ho and other cabinet members. Former President Lee Myung-bak also paid a visit and briefly held talks with President Yoon, as did former UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, who expressed his condolences and hopes that Yoon's upcoming Trilateral meeting at Camp David would go well. A senior presidential official said that the president will observe the traditional 3-day mourning period and return to his duties on the last day to prevent any absence from conducting state affairs. Regarding Yoon's trip to the United States for the meeting at Camp David with his American and Japanese counterparts, the official said the departure time on Thursday may be adjusted, but the date remains unchanged. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Switching gears to South Korea's ICT exports in July, ICT exports dropped 24.3% on year to $14.6 billion. And that's according to the Trade Ministry on Wednesday, which said we've seen a general decline of sales in semiconductors, displays, and mobile phones with less demand. Nonetheless, the ICT industry still saw a trade surplus in July of $3.2 billion. We may have escaped from record-high inflation, but many are still finding the cost of daily necessities to be too high. Our Lee Soo-jin walks us through how people are looking for more affordable options.
South Korean residents continue to grapple with high costs. Despite the recent slowdown in consumer price growth, inflation continues to be a serious concern for many.
I have more things to buy since it's the summer holiday season, but it feels as though the prices I saw today were even higher than they were yesterday.
The Korea Development Institute, a state-run economic think tank, recently revised its annual inflation estimate upwards to 3.5% from 3.4%. What are some ways residents use to cope with the high prices? An increasing number of people are using half-price delivery services offered by convenience stores.
We are currently delivering around 1 million packages each month.
Half-price delivery services allow customers to send packages from a convenience store for them to be picked up at any branch of the same convenience store chain. They're dubbed half-price delivery services because they're roughly half the price of the regular postal service.
It's cheaper than regular postal services because we use our own logistics system.
Because they're available at convenience stores across the nation, they're also much more accessible.
There are convenience stores everywhere, and they're always operating, so it's available for 365 days, 24/7.
People are also cutting spending by shopping at refurbished stores. Refurbished stores offer goods that have been returned by customers or by companies due to minor manufacturing flaws at discounted prices. A wide variety of items from clothes to home appliances are available, and they're in almost pristine condition.
Our employees unbox all the products that come in to inspect their quality.
There has been an increase in customers since prices began rising.
I come here often. I'm able to buy products that I want at a cheaper price. The quality is great. I actually just bought something.
One expert says that these options are popular because the slowdown in consumer price growth has not yet brought relief for customers.
While the index has gone down, the prices of many everyday essentials that people need remain high.
As concerns over rising costs remain high, the number of people seeking affordable options, such as half-price delivery services and items that have been refurbished, is expected to continue to grow. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea has been trying to reduce the number of industrial accidents. In 2022, officials implemented the Serious Accident Punishment Act, where supervisors at industrial sites can be held responsible for any casualties that happen due to a lack of safety measures. From next year, though, these safety measures will be enhanced with a touch of AI technology. Yoon explains more.
When the truck driver puts his phone up to his ear, a warning alarm sounds. And when the driver yawns to fight drowsiness, another warning alarm sounds. There's an artificial intelligence device in the vehicle that analyzes the driver's actions and expressions in real time. This device detects situations where safety precautions are needed. For example, forklift drivers may have blind spots, so the device detects people or objects within a 10-meter radius. On construction sites, when the chin straps of safety helmets are loosened, which increases the risk of injury, the supervisor is alerted by their smartphone. This is a technology that has been introduced by a medical waste company as a way of dealing with the enforcement of the Serious Accidents Punishment Act, which has added a greater focus on safety management.
We met with many businesses and workers in person to identify safety risks on site, then focused on making sure it doesn't interfere with their comfort and work efficiency.
On the monitor, when a worker approaches a danger zone, the orange boundary line turns red. The technology automatically measures the distance between the excavator and workers, and when the workers are within a certain radius, a warning label appears on the screen. When flames appear, the system quickly detects a fire. These are all dangerous situations that would have needed to be checked by people in the past. This construction company decided that installing smart CCTVs with AI technology would have a greater effect on preventing serious accidents, and expanded its application throughout all of their working sites.
I think installing a variety of smart safety technologies is what made us the only major construction company to report 0 serious accidents last year.
Also in the works is the development of unmanned heavy equipment to minimize casualties in dangerous areas. A version of this technology was already tested while responding to an apartment collapse incident in Gwangju City last year. As such, with more high-tech integrated technology increasing, the possibility of serious accidents are decreasing in working sites. 이은진, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In southern Russia, at least 35 people have been killed and over 100 injured in an explosion at a petrol station in the city of Makhachkala. Search and rescue operations are ongoing and a state of emergency has been declared. The blast on Monday evening local time was triggered by a fire at a car repair shop opposite the station. Hundreds of firefighters battled for 3.5 hours to put out the blaze. Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed his condolences to the victims. The country's investigative committee has opened a criminal investigation into the incident. Now, Poland has held its largest military parade in decades amid rising tensions on its border with Moscow ally Belarus and in a show of force against Russia. Held on Polish Army Day, the event on Tuesday included 200 units of Polish and foreign military equipment, 92 aircraft, and 2,000 troops. The day marks Poland's victory over Russian-led Bolshevik forces during the Battle of Warsaw in 1920. Since Russia's annexation of the Korean Peninsula in 2014, Warsaw has invested billions into military equipment. This year, Poland's ruling party vowed to double the size of the army and increase GDP spending on defense. Poland's parade comes a week after the NATO member said it will deploy thousands of additional troops to its border with Belarus in response to the presence of Russian Wagner mercenary forces there. YouTube has announced a ban on false claims about cancer treatments in a move meant to build on its medical misinformation policy. According to an official blog post on Tuesday, the ban will affect content about cancer treatments that have been proven harmful or ineffective. It also targets content that discourages viewers from getting professional treatment. The ban will take immediate effect and will be steadily enforced over the next few weeks. The platform also plans to promote content about cancer from verified sources, including the US-based Mayo Clinic. YouTube's medical misinformation policy already bans content with misinformation on vaccines and abortion, as well as videos that promote eating disorders. And finally, Brazilian football star Neymar Jr. has left French champions Paris Saint-Germain to join Saudi Arabia's Al Hilal in a deal valued at over $98 million plus add-ons. The transfer was announced on Tuesday, with the 31-year-old signing a 2-year deal that will see him paid a reported annual salary of over $100 million. Neymar will now link up with new teammates including Ruben Neves, Kalidou Koulibaly and Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, all of whom moved to Al Hilal earlier in the summer. Saudi clubs have been splashing the cash recently in a bid to increase the profile of the Saudi League. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. As much as we're waiting for some cooler weather to move in, heat waves haven't crashed the power grid. Hot weather continues across Korea, with heat wave alerts remain in place. Meanwhile, east of Gangwon-do province will be relatively cooler with spotty rain in the forecast. Then there will be passing rain in many parts of the country. Central areas in Jeollabuk-do province will be seeing 5 to 40 millimeters of showers, while Gyeongsang-do provinces and surrounding regions will be seeing heavier showers of up to 80 millimeters until tomorrow at dawn, along with thunder and lightning. Until that rain falls, strong UV rays will be beaming down on us. Don't forget to wear a good amount of sunblock and sunglasses to protect yourself from the high UV rays. Highs in most parts are in the low 30s, but feels like temperatures will be a couple of degrees higher today. Temperatures will continue on the hot side through this week, with some passing rain in the forecast at the end of the week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for you at this hour. Do stay with us for our panel session on how Seoul has been named as the host of the next World Youth Day set for 2027. As for the Daily Report, we'll see you again tomorrow at this hour.